The Second World War was a time of bravery and sacrifice, but not every story from the era is heroic. Some stories remained hidden for years, like the story of the civilian women in France and Germany who suffered after the arrival of the Allied forces. Before American soldiers, known as GIs, landed in France during World War II, they were surrounded by stories and promises. Military newspapers and recruitment posters made it seem as if France was full of friendly, welcoming women, an idea meant to encourage young men to join the war. Some materials even described France as a vast brothel, suggesting that soldiers would be rewarded with adventure and romance. In reality, these messages created a false image and a sense of entitlement among those being sent overseas. When the soldiers finally arrived in Normandy in 1944, the real situation was very different. Many villages in France were still war-torn and in ruins. Instead of celebration, fear and sadness filled the streets. For many local women, the arrival of foreign armies, first the German troops, then the American Liberators, brought even more terror. Instead of safety, they sometimes faced acts of violence, including 14,000 cases of sexual assault committed by US servicemen, as historian J. Robert Lilly has estimated.
The proposal is to issue strict guidelines for all units. This is to protect not just the local women, but also our own reputation.
However, American leaders were more worried about what people would say back home if they heard soldiers were visiting such places. They feared scandal, so they said no. This decision had serious consequences. With no protection or system in place, some GIs took advantage of their power and the chaos of war. In places behind the front lines, away from the direct command of their officers, soldiers who had gone absent without leave, meaning they had left their duties, sometimes formed groups that acted like bandits. They broke rules, committed crimes, and hurt people. Even though many terrible acts happened, the system for punishing soldiers hardly worked. Out of the thousands of reported attacks, only 152 soldiers went to court in France for the crime of rape up until late 1944. In the end, only 29 soldiers were executed for these offences. Most cases were never brought to justice, and the stories of the victims were often ignored or forgotten.
We were terrified. First the Germans, then the bombs, and then our liberators.
For a long time, these events were almost never talked about in history books. We often remember the American soldiers of World War II as the greatest generation, brave and honorable. But real history is never simple. To truly understand the past, we must also listen to the voices of those who struggled in silence and whose lives were changed forever during and after the war. It is important to remember all parts of history, the light and the shadow. By doing so, we can learn from the past and work toward a kinder, safer world for everyone.